Hi, I'm Stuart Crowley, Head of Media at Next.io. Welcome to Spotlight, the show where we speak with leaders shaping the future of iGaming. And today I'm joined by Will Whitehead, Commercial Director at Mkodo, and the driving force behind GeoLocs. We'll be talking about geolocation, the challenges for operators, and what's next for the technology. Welcome, Will.
Thanks, Stuart.
So, Will, for those that don't know what GeoLocs is yet, can you give us a quick elevator pitch, and what problems do you solve for operators?
Yeah, sure. So GeoLocs is a product that was produced by our company Mkodo. So Mkodo has been in this industry for 20 odd years. We've been around for about 25 years. And many years ago, our core business was developing apps and websites for our clients. And as part of that, one of the biggest challenges our clients were facing is having a good geolocation provider. So we actually developed out our own geolocation solution many years ago. We actually believe we were the first in the industry. And since then, we've been improving it. We've given it a whole rebrand. We rebuilt the product. We've made it into a much more consumable SDK. And we've built the team. We've invested in the team, and we've probably signed around 30 operators in the last couple of years, and we've had a lot of growth. So I guess the core challenges that our industry faces, they're looking for a key geolocation provider, an alternative geolocation provider, and one that they can fully trust. And GeoLocs encompasses all of that.
You mentioned a rebrand within your answer there. And what was the driving force behind this refresh? And why do you feel the time was now to do that rebrand?
Well, the time is definitely now. I've been pushing this for a long time. GeoLocs really saw a lot of growth around when Ontario opened up a couple of years ago, and we had to get a lot of moving parts into place quite quickly. You know, our product, our operational support, etc. And we had a brand at the time, which was fine. It was okay, but now was the time to have a bit of a refresh, invest in it. And we wanted to reflect where we are right now in terms of the growth that we're seeing, the new technologies that we're using, the successful clients that we have now on board. And I'm really excited by the rebrand. Now is a good time, just with SBC coming up, and then G2E and NASPL and a couple of other conferences we'll be at to showcase our new brand and some new stories to tell. So very excited to launch it now.
You've got that, like you mentioned, one of the first, if not the first, brand on the market. And that gives you that first starter advantage. And I'm curious, from that commercial perspective, how does this new rebrand better position GeoLocs in a growing competitive environment? You know, quite a few years ago, it wasn't the same as it is right now.
Well, look, every operator needs geolocation in regulated markets. We understand that. It's a must-have product. It's not necessarily a super sexy product. It's a must-have compliance product. So it's our job, and it's my team's job, to ensure that every operator in the world knows who GeoLocs are and at least explores us as an option. We have a lot of very positive feedback from our clients. I'm very proud that we've never had a client leave GeoLocs since they've signed with us. We have a 100% retention rate with our partners and our clients, which shows we're doing a lot of things right. I'm very, very excited by that and proud of that. But I think our continual challenge is getting the good name of GeoLocs out there, showcasing our brand, speaking to operators, discussing our story, and showing the ease that it can be to migrate over to our platform. As you say, it is quite a competitive landscape, much more competitive than it was in the last 3 to 4 years. There's a few other providers out there now, but we really believe we're in a very strong position to showcase what we can offer. We don't necessarily have some of the external investment that some of the other geolocation providers have, but that means that we have to grow and rely on organic growth and sustainable growth. And we've had a lot of success, extremely successful over the last sort of 20 odd years with that. But we absolutely need to be in our A game when it comes to sales and marketing. And I think our new brand reflects that.
Yeah, and also the proof of that churn of customers, zero churn of customers, is a fantastic result and is proof of the pudding. I'm curious about also the future of geolocation. What does that mean for you?
Well, when I think my marketing manager suggested this as a phrase, I loved it straight away. I signed it off instantly, actually, because I think it reflects where we are. I mean, I argued amongst myself saying, well, are we the future or are we the now? Right now, we are speaking to a lot of sizable operators who are looking to migrate, or as I say, upgrade over to GeoLocs. And so, but I liked it. I think it encompasses exactly where we're at. You know, we have new technologies coming out. We have new innovative products coming out as well. And I think that reflects the future of geolocation. I think geolocation has been a relatively stale place over the last 10 years, or maybe 6, 7 years since PASPA opened up, particularly in North America. And there's a few disruptors in place now, but I believe that we are as well positioned as anybody in this space to be the future of the geolocation sector. And I think that reflects that.
And you did mention previously that geolocation might not be the sexiest thing, but it is important and necessary for the industry, for any operator. And that's why I guess sometimes when we talk about it, it gets talked as a compliance tick box, essentially. Why do you believe it's more than just that?
Well, I think it's important to understand that it is. It is just a compliance tick box, first and foremost, and we can't shy away from that. We have to understand that. That is the bread and butter. But, you know, we don't want it to be seen as a barrier as well. We have to ensure that geolocation, from a customer point of view, is as seamless and unintrusive as possible. But we do understand that geolocation can be seen as a cost to our clients straight off their bottom line. So we are working super hard internally to build out innovative solutions, new products, extending our value-added services to actually add ROI and add additional value as part of our platform. So we're adding new features, using all the data we receive. We are doing over 1 billion geolocation lookups per year. We have incredible amounts of data. So how do we convert that data into ROI? How do we use that for pushing relevant content based on that data, personalization, new marketing tools, using data trends, etc., analytics? There's so much information we gather. So yes, it is a compliance box to tick, but that kind of gets us through the door. That's a gateway into all these different value-added services. And there's so much data we gather that we are now putting into like ROI-based features, and our clients are loving that. I think our partners, our new partners, will enjoy seeing those features as well, and won't just see us as this sort of trivial compliance partner. There's much more we can add. I think that's part of Mkodo's DNA. Really, is over the last however many years, we've always seen ourselves as a value-added partner. We're not just an agency that has one platform or one product. Here you go, or you tell us what to do and we do it for you. We always think innovatively, how do we, as Mkodo, as GeoLocs, add more value to our partners?
Now, you mentioned value add and ROI, and of course for an operator, one of those markers of ROI and value is player satisfaction. And so when it comes to GeoLocs, you would want that to be as non-disruptive as possible, so that the player just has a smooth experience throughout their experience on the operator site. So how do you make GeoLocs invisible for the player while still satisfying those strict regulatory demands in many different regions throughout the world that are only getting stricter as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. Being a sports guy, I use the sporting analogy of referees, or even in cricket terms, wicket keepers. They say the best referees or the best wicket keepers are the ones that you don't know. You never talk about them. You never discuss their performance, which usually means they're doing something good quietly in the background. That's what I believe GeoLocs should be. You shouldn't really know it's there. It's a very, very simple, unintrusive process. One click of a button to accept permissions. And that's the only interaction a customer should have. So we want it to be incredibly unintrusive, very simple, very straightforward. But I think it's also key to add education as well to the customer. So if for any reason they are unable to access the site due to geolocation, and there are times where they shouldn't be, absolutely, it proves that our product is working when we don't allow them to play based on their location, or if they are trying to spoof their location, for example. But we then provide correct error messaging and some nice user experience, educational messages to say why you can't access it. It's not just, or you can't play, or just one generic error message. We educate the customer on that specific scenario. We also have no additional downloaded companion apps or authenticator apps or anything invasive there. So I think UX is core to Mkodo. It's in our DNA. We have a sizable user experience team here. We don't see GeoLocs as just a back-end SDK solution. We always think about the customer experience as well. All the way through every single step of accepting permissions to the educational piece. And we get a lot of very positive feedback from our partners on the way that we do that.
You mentioned, of course, that some players do get blocked based on their location, rightfully so. Is it getting harder to do that with players? Are players finding ways around it, and is it getting harder to chase that and prevent that?
I don't think it is actually. I think our platform is hardening. We have a number of different factors that we build into a picture to see what the customer is potentially doing here to spoof. We call it a trust score, and we sort of build a picture of that individual. If we see that there's any abnormal play based on these different scenarios, we may not let them play. And then we have that educational piece explaining why. We work closely with our partners to see what sort of trends we are seeing for our clients, customers to try and spoof that location, and then we act accordingly. So I think as our platform is hardening, I think it's becoming more and more difficult for customers to try and access out of region. And I see some interesting data among some of our competitors who often show off 99% or 100% success record, but I don't think that reflects positively. If you're actually seeing 2 to 3% customers aren't getting in, that probably shows that your platform is working correctly. There's always those people trying to access your site illegally. So I think they're the kind of numbers you're expecting to see.
Absolutely. And you did also mention in a previous answer about migrating over to a different platform, a different provider like GeoLocs. And that can usually feel a little bit risky for anyone. I'm sure we've all had those experiences where we're so comfortable with the product and, you don't want to then change unless you feel like it's better. What would you say is the number one reason operators do move to GeoLocs, and how do you de-risk that sort of migration process?
Yeah, well, we absolutely remove that risk. We've had a lot of operators migrate from existing providers, our competitors, over to GeoLocs over the last few years, which is always great to see. And we always make that experience as seamless as possible. One of our key USPs, I believe, is that the integration into GeoLocs is quick. We've had operators do it in under a week, tested, ready to go, which we hear some of our competitors can take months and months for a migration path. So we make that whole process very, very easy. There is no risk moving to us. Our commercial model works well. Our operational excellence works well. We can almost guarantee our 100% uptime based on our infrastructure. So there's good reason why operators are moving over to us. Our overall package, as I just said, is very appealing to them. And it might seem risky. It's always safer and just easier to stick with your existing provider. But as I say, I welcome everyone just to have at least a conversation with us and look at that migration path and see it's not that difficult to move across to us. And I think that's one of the appealing things that operators have seen in recent times.
I'd like to talk about quite a hot topic right now, or a hot market right now, and that's, of course, Brazil. I'm sure you've talked about it a lot and you've heard about it a lot. With it going live at the start of the year, with regulated online gambling. How significant was it actually for GeoLocs launching in Brazil with Superbet on day one of that regulation?
Well, it was a significant moment for us. It was very exciting, and it's been a real success actually. Ever since we launched on January the 1st with Superbet, tier one operator over there, it's been great working with them. The volumes they're doing are extraordinary, way more than I anticipated. And it's, we had to adapt pretty quickly. We had to invest further into our team. We had to really improve and harden our infrastructure. Our operational support had to change a little bit to work in the Brazil market. But it's a very exciting region. We are speaking to a number of other operators, sizable operators, who maybe for the first 6 months or so just stuck with their current provider, or just sort of looking at the landscape a little bit, but are now discussing with us how they can migrate over to GeoLocs. They understand the work we're doing in Brazil is proving very successful, and the investment we're putting into that territory is exciting, and there's definitely more to come in that region.
The work doesn't stop elsewhere as well. Let's take a trip up north as well to Alberta in Canada. They're also obviously opening up as a regulated market, and how you also mentioned Ontario as well. How do you see Canada evolving compared to the US, that is a little bit more of a slow burn, I would say?
Yeah, well, we over the last 15 years have done a lot of work in Canada. We work with a lot of the lotteries over there, building various different softwares and apps and websites for most of the lotteries, if not all, bar one or two. So we have I like to say Canada's our playground. We were the first regulated geolocation supplier in Ontario. We are still to date the only geolocation supplier to have a supplier's license with the AGCO and IGO. We have a very strong working relationship with them. And from what we see, Alberta is going to reflect and replicate a lot of what Ontario is doing. So we're in a very strong position for when, and it is a when, not if, Alberta opens up. We are already providing regulated geolocation solutions in Alberta because we work with the lotteries over there. So again, we have that first mover advantage. We have more experience than anyone over there. We are absolutely set up to migrate all of our existing partners and new to launch on Alberta on day one. We understand that landscape and that market as well as anyone. So we're very excited by that. Very excited to see how the Alberta market goes. I think everyone believes that, or most people believe that Ontario has been a real success. And there's other territories which I think will actually look to open up sooner than most people realize within Canada as well. So it's a very exciting territory, a very exciting time for GeoLocs in Alberta and in Ontario and others to come.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm also interested, you've had several years in the industry to have those ups and downs and many debates and conversations about misconceptions about geolocation, with clients or prospective clients, people at events. And I'm sure you might encounter even more misconceptions in the events coming up soon. What would you say are some of the biggest misconceptions that you do hear about geolocation? And counter to that, what would you say is the reality?
Well, I think as we touched upon earlier, I think one of the biggest misconceptions it is just a compliance must-have thing. But we are trying to show to our partners that we can add additional value in different areas as well, and how we can use predominantly the data to convert into ROI opportunities as well, or revenue generating opportunities. And I think another sizable misconception and a lot of hot topic, I would say, over the last couple of years since a couple of disruptors have come into the space is around price. And how operators are now expected to pay a very, very, very low price, but expect a very, very high premium service, expecting 100% SLAs and operational excellence, but at a very, very low rate. And so, as part of my job to kind of educate the partners that we're speaking to show our value. And, cheapest isn't necessarily best. It can be a false economy. You can't afford to have a geolocation provider that goes down at critical times, because you kind of get one chance and then your customers might move on to a competitive site. So it's my role really to show our value, and as you say, get out to these events, speak at networking opportunities, and show the good work that GeoLocs can do.
Yeah, I think I think you're absolutely right that we do have this conception that price is, when it's a low price, you're immediately excited. But at the same time, there are jokes coming around about this now that a person or a product could be the Temu version, that sort of lower cost version, but it's not high quality. And then you realize that immediately, don't you?
Well, who wants a Temu compliance product?
Exactly.
If you're a tier one operator working in a highly regulated market and you have a Temu solution that breaks, can't handle the scale, can't handle the volume, can't handle the spikes that we see in this space, it's, well, the answer. It's pointless. And I think a combination of, as I talked about, our offering, our experience, but with our very appealing price point, I think we're there. And we have very, very positive feedback on that. We're never going to be the absolute cheapest, because there'll always be these smaller companies that are trying to just buy in business. That's not our style. We are here for a long time. We've been here for a long time. We want to have established sort of relationships and with our partners. And I think we are in a good place for that.
Awesome. And I think potentially one other misconception that I might have even stumbled on during this conversation is, we've talked about migration, we've talked about moving from one solution to another, and maybe that is a misconception that you can't have two in play at the same time, two solutions. And I think we can safely say that a lot of operators rely on a single geolocation provider. And I'm curious, from your perspective, what risks does that pose if you're only relying on one? And I think that maybe relates to your previous answer about a cheaper provider. But I'm also curious about, why is that resilience so important if you could have two, for example?
Yeah, it is an interesting one, and I think that trend is shifting a little bit. We've seen that in recent times, certainly from the conversations we're having at the moment. But it can bring risk having a single provider. And particularly the larger operators out there, they tend to have multiple payment providers, KYC, AML providers. But for geolocation, for some reason, there's always just been that one provider. But that is changing. We're speaking to a lot of operators now who initially maybe are looking at us as their backup or their secondary provider. As we then show them the work we can do, hopefully that will convert into be their primary provider. I think a key selling point of ours, as I mentioned, is our migration path or our onboarding integration path is very, very straightforward and very, very quick. And so I think we're very appealing as a partner to come in initially as that secondary or backup provider, and then migrate as their primary one. So I think we'll see more of that as well. I know there's definitely a shift in trend, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I really like how you reference customers or clients as partners instead of those customers. I think that speaks a lot to how you treat that relationship, that working relationship. And it seems as though partnerships are central to GeoLocs' strategy. Can you tell me a little bit more about the role in which operators, the partners, play in shaping GeoLocs?
Sure. I mean, it is so cliche, but we definitely see our clients as partners. I think that goes back to, again, the sort of the core DNA of Mkodo over the last 25 years, is that we, historically, we're building bespoke solutions for our clients based on their requirements, based on, what they wanted to see. It wasn't just a single platform. So we've always had this relationship with our clients where we listen to them and we can build on the back of that. We can work together, develop roadmap and innovate together, workshop together. That's, we just got back from a 3-day workshop with one of our sizable clients in Brazil, looking at roadmap together. How can we mutually beneficially, develop out our product to ensure that it supports both of us? And that's, that's part of our DNA. I think, one of the feedbacks we've heard about other providers in this space is the lack of partnership. It is just, it's a sort of vendor-supplier relationship, and we've never really wanted that. So we've always, we've been leaning into the fact that we are partners. We have very, very strong relationships with those guys. As I mentioned, and I'll always mention, we have a no churn at all, 100% client retention rate in the last 5 years. I think that really shows our value and our operational excellence.
Yeah.
I think we have to recognize that geolocation is not a one-size-fits-all. It's a different product. It's a different user experience in different territories, from Ontario to the States, to different states within USA, to LATAM. It all provides or all requires a slightly different solution. And we recognize that. I think there's others out there perhaps that have a one-size-fits-all, but we work with our partners and understand their particular needs in that particular territory, and then adapt our product and our operational support and our commercial model to reflect that. And I think retention is just as important as acquisition in our space. And sometimes it's just sell. But partner retention is absolutely critical. We've built a very, very good customer success team here, a very good operational team here, looking after our partners. We're very proud of that. I think the results show that.
Yeah, I think retention, staying on the topic of partnerships, retention also is a marker of trust, I would say. And what would you say in the terms of GeoLocs? You consider yourself a trusted compliance partner. What does that mean in practical terms for you?
Well, I mean, I guess, look, the trust is absolutely everything when it comes to compliance. And geolocation is a big part of that. You have to trust your provider that they'll have 100% uptime, that they'll be there to support you from an operational point of view. First and foremost, we have to ensure that we're providing an excellent service. But I think it's also just day-to-day management as well. Got to make sure the commercials is right. If that trust is gone for whatever reason, whatever different touch point, then operators might look to move on. And to date, that's not happening. And so I think there is a lot of trust in the way that GeoLocs works. We are, Mkodo has grown exponentially in the last 5 years or so. Yet we still maintain that slightly small business culture. And I'm really proud of that. I mean it in a really positive way. So that's, we treat all our partners with a lot of respect. And I think that's mutual, and therefore they trust us.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's something that I would imagine or hope that a lot more people are going to strive towards in future. And talking about future, what would you see as the next big challenge for operators when it comes to GeoLocs? And I guess further to that, where's GeoLocs' place in geolocation of the future when it comes to these big challenges?
Well, there are challenges, but I don't think they're significant challenges. I think the biggest thing really is for operators to look elsewhere from their existing, maybe more legacy providers. And I think we are in a very, very strong position right now. As I'll probably repeat myself, but everything I've gone through, I think we are in a very healthy position. So I think our biggest challenge is getting our name out there and ensuring that we are having a conversation with the right people, talking about the migration path to upgrade across to GeoLocs. We've talked about the commercial model quite a lot and the pricing. So that is a challenge. So educating the industry on what makes sense there and why you have to invest in a trusted partner, I think is critical. But that's part of our role, and we're excited to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also further to that, we have talked a little bit about how GeoLocs supports operators beyond the compliance, because you have innovations that are further to that. And some of that is supported by, of course, data. I've heard a lot about, data being the new oil, and there's lots of advantages to having data. I want to dig a little bit deeper into seeing what could be those innovations that you are looking at. Is it personalization? Is it marketing? Is it customer support, player support and satisfaction? What are those particular things that might be the future as well?
You just nailed it. It's a lot of those things, really. It's GeoLocs started off as a core compliance product, right? Recognizing the location of a player, but then there's so much more to be done with that. Obviously, data is, a lot of it starts from data. How can we then push content, personalized content based on a player's preference or whatever it might be? But there's more value-added services as well. There's more things around anti-fraud capabilities that we're adding to our portfolio at the moment. We're looking a lot around user experience as well. How using Geo, can we provide more personalized content as well? So there's a lot more to come. And I do, as I touched upon earlier, it's sort of an entry, it's a gateway as a compliance tool. But I think operators will see more and more how working with GeoLocs, they can add it into a revenue generating stream.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm hearing a lot about personalization, in my career, that, of course, it's going to lead to higher retention rates of players and satisfaction, because you're giving people exactly what they want rather than a one-size-fits-all sort of message that you've talked about before as well. So I think there's advantages further to just that compliance, as you said, for players as well as the operators themselves. So in the last few minutes that we've covered a hell of a lot in this 30-minute chat. What would you say, if we boiled it all down, what would you say are the most important USPs for your geolocation technology that sets you apart from the competitors?
Well, I don't think it's a single USP. I think it's the overall offering that GeoLocs has. I think, as I touched upon, I think a combination of our products, our experience, I think a key thing is our integration time and the seamlessness of that. We have a ton of very positive feedback, how straightforward our SDKs are to consume, and the sort of support that our onboarding team provides there. Combined with our commercial model, I think our model is in a very, very healthy place now. And with our operational excellence, I think is a combination of all those things. I don't think right now operators are looking for that one significant USP, but I think that will come. And I think, going back to what we've previously said, I think that will be more around using data to convert into revenue. But I'm biased, clearly, but I don't think operators need to look much further than GeoLocs. We have a ton of very positive feedback. We have some very exciting things happening in the future. A number of tier one operators are looking to migrate to GeoLocs across different regions, which I think I'm super excited to talk about those when the timing is right, when we can announce those partnerships. And I think they'll raise some eyebrows and get some people excited and hopefully bring further opportunity to us. We foresee more growth, more partners working with us, and we're in a very healthy position, and looking forward to the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we can't wait to also cover that, obviously, on next. So finally, for those watching who might be considering their options, why would you say is now the right time to talk to GeoLocs and talk to Will?
Well, I guess it goes, I guess all I'm asking is that we just want to have those conversations with the operators. I think everyone who has worked with GeoLocs to date enjoys and appreciates the service and all the things we talked about, the price and the operational excellence. So I'd like to speak to those operators out there who maybe have an existing provider or are looking to move into new territories and see how we can support them upgrade across to GeoLocs, and now is the time.
Yeah, and just finally, I'm curious. You mentioned a few events. What events are you going to for these people to get an opportunity to see?
Yeah, well, we are busy. So we're going to NASPL in Toronto next week, and then week after next, and then we have Lisbon, we have G2E, and then a few other smaller events coming up, and then obviously 2026 is looking very, very busy already. By then we will have announced some of our more sizable partnerships as well. So expecting very, very busy 2026. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the industry at these events.
Awesome. I mean, I don't think you can miss Will then. You'll see him at pretty much every single event.
We'll be there.
Thanks so much, Will, for having this chat with me. It's been really enlightening, and I'm glad that we could shine the spotlight not only on GeoLocs, but also on the future of geolocation. So really appreciate you taking the time today, Will.
Thanks, Jeff.